Hey folks, Nas here, another episode of Medieval Dynasty. So we are in Season 3, but we are actually in our Season 1 save village. So we've got a little repairs and stuff that need to be made around town. But what I wanted to actually start doing a little parkour here. What I wanted to actually start doing is I think I want to revamp this town. So I want to kind of bring it up to date a little bit because it was built before a lot of things were introduced into the game, like horses and things like that. So we'll drop down here. So as you can see, these folks are standing here, guy's clearing his nose and stuff right in the middle of the street, and you can't walk by. There's like no room to walk by. So because when I made these roads, we had to make roads out of farming plots. I'll let everybody go by there. But we had to make roads out of farming plots. So, you know, that instead of the roads that we have now, we were using farming plots, and you'd go 16 blocks and there'd be a space between them. You go 16 more blocks, there'd be a space between them, and you had to worry about trying to fix the grass and stuff and all that. But then they introduced the roads. So I just came through and made that. Well, at that point in time, they didn't have horses either. So it really wasn't that big of a deal to have a single wide walking path, which it works in most cases. But I'm also realizing that even having one NPC standing, you know, just off center of the pathway, sometimes it's hard to just walk by, much less bring the horse in and try to get the horse back to the back where the stable is. So what I'm thinking about doing is, like I mentioned, revamping town. So it's probably, there's gonna be a lot of things that are laid out differently. So I like this entrance and the way it looks and everything, but I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make these pathways through town too wide. That way there could be people standing in the pathway like there are, like when you go to the mall, people are standing in the aisles and stuff at the mall. Same thing here, because NPCs are going to stand outside, they're going to talk, they're going to block the way and things like that, and I'm going to want to get through without actually, you know, parkouring and running along the walls, you know, to get places. Whoops. And hit my head on, you know, fence lampposts. Then, so we'll do that. We'll do the double pathway, all around town and stuff. They'll probably have little alleyways. See here? Here's one right here. He's literally standing there, but I can't get by. Yep, come on, move, buddy. You can't jump over him either. Oh, come on. So, the only time there will be a one-lane path would be like an alleyway down between two buildings or behind a building or something like that. But for the most part, most all of these pathways, so something like this here. There's a good example of just a single lane path going down between two buildings. And then the roadway, I want to have it be at least double wide. So that way, even if people are standing out there, there's a more likely chance that you can just walk by a little bit easier. Then I also want to move the workshops and things that I've got kind of lined up here. I want to move those more towards what would be considered maybe center of town, which I think is going to be this walkway here or actually this area where these three houses are at. So between that walkway there and between this walkway here, I think I'm going to fill this area here with the workshops. Because they're talking about having vendors and things like that. I don't know how those are going to work when they're introduced into the game, whether they're going to have their own buildings or whether the vendors are going to be part of some of these existing buildings. You know, so like, you know, with Huberta, which is actually my wife, would she then be a vendor but still occupy this building, or is it going to be a separate building altogether, kind of like a a market fair kind of a setting, you know, to where they're going to have their own little booths and things like that, which in my opinion would be really cool to have. But I don't think that they're going to do that. But anyway, that's what I'm thinking of, moving the workshops and stuff. So these 3 houses here would move. Then all of the houses except my house, which my house is right over there. And then the very first house when you come into the village, that house right there, those are the only 2 houses in the village that are 4-person homes. Everything else is a 3-person home. And then of course you can see that I've upgraded some of the walls and stuff and kept some of the wood walls and the stone walls. I liked the contrast on the homes and stuff. I thought it looked really nice. Then the tavern. I'm really torn on what to do with the tavern and the sitting area out here. This is probably one of the flatter areas in the village to be placing tables and stuff. So chances are I'm going to leave the tavern and sitting area here. I may try to introduce maybe a bonfire or something right here and have a few little chairs around it, or maybe I'll put a bonfire or something down here and a few chairs around it. Something like that. I'm not 100% sure on that yet. So wherever I put the tavern, because I was toying with the fact of removing this house and putting the tavern in this area. But I would have to chop down a lot of trees, and I'd want to keep as many trees as I can in here. And then once we get to the orchard, because I don't have enough farming points yet to get to the orchard and stuff, but once we get to that, I want to see about planting some of the orchard trees around town, to scatter them around town for some different color and stuff like that throughout the year. So I would imagine each season the different type trees would be blooming and have, you know, bear fruit and stuff like that, and the colors would change. Then let's see here. So let's go out. So the stable and the barn and the fold, because right now I have a sheepfold and with 1 goat who's really not doing anything. But I want to start incorporating more of all of the crops. So I'd like to actually start producing all of the crops, and rather than just a couple of each one. So I've got this big 16 by 16 crop right here. I've strictly just used the road to lay out another crop section because I needed to know what trees had to be removed in order to get it set. So I'm going to put a second 16 by 16 farming plot here. So in this one here, I'm planning on doing, the cabbage, the carrot, the beetroot, all of that stuff in here, the poppies when I get them and everything, and then maybe sprinkling in a couple of rows of maybe like the oat grain and the rye or something like that. And then the second one is going to be strictly flax and wheat is kind of what I'm thinking. And then as far as the barn going, I'm considering putting the barn, so we're on the outside of this palisade. So that palisade is going to possibly be removed. We'll see. I'm not sure how I'm going to. I know I want to fence it all in, and I'm probably going to end up doing a palisade all the way around, which is just massive. But what I'm thinking about is the barn. I'm actually thinking about putting the barn just off of this, because right here where this tree is, you can kind of see the light color stripe. This is actually a road. This is not farming plot. So off of this road, I would literally have the entrance to the barn, and the barn would sit right here. Yes, we're going to have to remove a few trees, but again, I'm trying to keep as many trees as possible. Unfortunately, I can't put back any of the trees that I've removed originally, because some of these buildings, they needed to have trees removed. But that's okay. We're still keeping quite a bit of trees in the village. But I'm considering putting the barn here. And then I'm also thinking I want to bring the stable and the sheepfold over. And I think what I'm going to do is maybe do like the stick fence or something and create kind of like a little corral or something for the sheep and the goat and stuff. But, unfortunately, there's no way to lock them in. So like there's no gates. They haven't introduced gates into the game, which I hope that's something that they plan on changing. But I don't know how that would work, because if you, I mean, like the doors that are currently in the game, you don't actually interact with the door. You literally just walk through it. It's like it's a swinging door. It just swings open and swings shut. There's no locking mechanism on it or anything like that. So having a gate with this same mechanic would be useless. Because then your goats and your horse and stuff like that will literally leave and walk around. Now granted, I know that they all come back in the evening, and the sheep and goats and stuff are all in the fold, and the horse is usually in the stable and stuff like that. So I guess that's fine. But for aesthetic purposes, I'm probably going to fence off a little area next to the fold, and then I'll fence off a little area next to the stable. They just probably won't ever have anything in them. They'll just be fenced off. But that's kind of what I'm thinking about putting in this area here. And then I also want to add more houses and things like that. So we can, obviously this gate would move, and then we can extend houses down along this here. I may even do them a little bit deeper because we've got space behind a lot of these houses. So I may do some of the houses too deep and have a little alleyway between the houses so you can get to the houses in the back. But I want to start utilizing more of the building limit that we have in the game. So if we open the menu here, go to management. So our building limit is 44 buildings. We've got 28 right now. So I want to increase that. I also want to increase our population. So I want to bring in more workers. And also create more workspaces. So like the crafting and stuff, the workshops and things, I want to have like a second smithy too, so we can actually be producing all of the iron tools needed for myself and for the other workers. I want somebody, you know, producing obviously arrows, because I am actually switching. That was weird. I saw that lady, she was been over using that hoe, and I could have swore it looked like the backside of a bear. Shh, don't tell her I said that. Here, let me go down here because she's got a weapon and I don't right now. But anyway, I just wanted to make this video. I wanted to kind of let you guys know what I'm thinking about doing, because I really enjoyed being in this village for season 1. But anyway, if you folks got any comments or any suggestions on what I could do and things I could place where, I think I've walked around most of the village quite a few times, and you guys could see where everything was located. So like I'm sorry, my dog is barking in the background. So I've got a resource storage here and a food storage here. Now food storage, I'm probably going to move the food storage and put it next to the tavern, because to me that makes sense, because that's where food is typically prepared. And then there's a sewing hut right here, and then we've got the smithy right here, and then I put up, I believe this is the workshop. So this the pottery wheel and workbench and stuff in here. And then of course, ooh, boy, that guy just knocked me over. And then the sheepfold is right here. It was right down the little alleyway between those two buildings. But anyway, if you folks have any suggestions or comments on what the village looks like and what we could do and what we can introduce and where we could place things, I'd really love to have that interaction with you. Feel free to join the Discord server. Link is in the description below. You can also share your ideas there as well. And make sure to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll see you folks in the next one. You take care and happy hunting.